Well, I'm just going to jump right in and say hi. I'm Miche from the Spoon Manners Cafe, healer, mentor, and coach, and also from Heartfelt Business Village. And this is the second week of the ongoing series of pro bono coaching that many of us heartfelt coaches are participating in. And so this is my no, actually, it's my third session. Doesn't matter. Anyway, here we are. And basically, my coaching and my focus is all about self-love and self-respect and self-acceptance, and how that actually empowers us to be in our superpowers. It allows us to really be who we are and bring out the strength and the truth and the authenticity and that we are. And I believe that after searching for many years for what my purpose is here and what I'm supposed to do, did finally kind of clarify for me and get come to understand that I do believe that for myself and for other people that we each are here simply to be ourselves, which is not always such a simple thing because often, in so many ways, we're taught to be other than ourselves, to try to be like other people or to aspire to be something else or to change the way we are and, sort of like cut off this habit and dampen down that personality trait and whatnot. And we're not necessarily joyously encouraged to be who we are, to really be all of who we are, and to accept that and appreciate that. Which is not to say that whoever you are, like at this particular moment, or who you were, at age 6 or 10 or 20, was like the end point. It's more that the truth of who you are is the ground, is the foundation from which you grow and change and shift and explore and expand, rather than the place from which you look critically and judgmentally at yourself and try to, lop off this and that, or squeeze yourself into this mold or whatnot. And because we are not particularly in general, right? I'm speaking in generalities. And for some people, it's been very true. For some people, maybe not so true. And I'm happy. I'm happy for you. And although I was, generally appreciated and had a pretty quiet sort of family life, I definitely grew up feeling like a misfit. And just, it's not even that. It doesn't have to be that big of a thing, right? It's just that, we're all individual. We're all different. We all see things in slightly different perspectives. We have different desires. We have different different talents and different geniuses even, that don't necessarily fit into like the category of genius, of acceptable or acknowledged genius, right? But if you're somebody who can look at a bunch of boxes and items and figure out how to make them all fit into the back of your car or your trunk or the moving van or whatever like that, and you can just kind of see it and know it, or just flip things around, like there's genius in that. There's genius in the spatial ability and understanding and the way to shift reality. I mean, reality in terms of like the boxes and the stuff of reality, right? And if you're somebody who can totally like grok what somebody's talking about and get, the underlying thing that they're saying, there's genius in that. If you can look in your refrigerator and figure out what to make for dinner, regardless of what is or isn't there, genius in that too. And so these are all things and ways that I think we can celebrate ourselves. And I think that we can celebrate each other. And as we can appreciate those things in ourselves, we begin to, appreciate ourselves more as whole human beings, and understand, that we're not just looking for like the flaws or the places that need fixing or mending or filling in or scratching out or whatever, right? But we can appreciate the things that do make us unique, that allow us to, perceive and be and create each in our own way, and to have tolerance for the ways that we are that don't quite, fit the slots, right? Or the boxes or the little tick marks or the okay, I hate multiple choice questions because there's rarely, I always want some other multiple on there, and none of the above doesn't really cut it, and maybe you're like that too. Maybe you feel like, the options that you are presented with, and in your work, or was in school, or just in what to wear or whatever, just don't suit you. And I just want to encourage people, rather than internalizing that as a judgment on ourselves, to recognize that and celebrate that, and acknowledge in the places where that can cause some pain or some difficulty, and that's true. And if that's something that you're working with or struggling with, like, you can appreciate yourself. We can appreciate each other. Um, for each of us, it kind of takes different things. It takes a different amount of, courage or struggle or whatever it is to get through, to be who we are. Hello, Galaxy Grand Prime. That's funny. That's like some like Star Trek or science fiction. The Galaxy Grand Prime Minister is here now. Thank you. I'm just goofing on you. I have just been kind of riffing here on accepting ourselves and accepting the quirkiness of ourselves and the beauty and the genius of ourselves, even if it's not something that would be somewhere there on a checklist that you could say, oh yeah, I got that one. No, you might look at a normal checklist and not really even see any things, but you can, if you're willing to kind of let go. Lena in the house as Galaxy Grandmaster. Thank you, Lena. Good. Good to have you. So that's great, because like you and I can kind of, carry on from our last discussion, where we talked about giving oneself authority and power and sovereignty. And so this really is kind of a carry on from there, that, kind of in other ways where, as I say, where we tend to, judge ourselves and find ourselves wrong or lacking or misfitting, rather than to celebrate who we are and acknowledge who we are, and adapt our lives to who and how we are. Our tendency, and kind of what we're told to do, is to adapt ourselves and to change in order to fit. And I think actually that as divine beings coming here, living a life in a human suit, that it's much more, the task is about being yourself and showing up as yourself, rather than trying to be somebody else or trying to accomplish, something else. There's a quote by the poet Rumi, which is, hang on, I'm going to mute for a second while the phone is going. So a quote by the poet Rumi, which says that you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in a drop. So it's like we each come in full capacity to be an expression of life and consciousness and awareness. And in that sense, I think to be, celebrated and acknowledged and appreciated, and growing and changing and shifting from there. We don't necessarily come in, to our lives as a finished product, but I believe we kind of come in with everything we need, the way a seed gets planted and has everything when you add the, the soil and the water and the sun, but sort of within its capacity to be its full self, to, be a growing, blooming plant, is already in there. And I believe so are we. And there are so many ways that we are thwarted or learn to thwart ourselves. And so that's actually kind of the more on the topic of what I wanted to share with people today, are some of the ways while you're going about your business and your day, whether you're trying to be someone else or you're trying to be yourself, and, just the day-to-day kind of struggles, of just the challenges of life, regardless of whether you're a good fit or a misfit or whatever, things come up, and we need to kind of get through. And my focus is on getting through whatever with kindness and some kind of lightness of spirit toward ourselves, and how to make it easier to get through, easier to, we really do create and affect our reality. And so the way we look at it, the sort of the lens or the filter that we look at things through, will help us perceive it as easier or more difficult or more problematic, or more just going with the flow. And so I made a few notes here so I wouldn't forget some of my favorite tools while I'm, trying to, be here and be here now, right? Well,
Yeah.
there's a tool. Be present.
Well, I was gonna say, listening to you now, is that it's interesting because Halloween was, well, last night, and
Right.
most people will dress up as an alter ego for Halloween and feel very empowered in that alter ego, in that costume, in whatever it is that they desire to be, because I always believe that it's always a part of you that wants to explore a different side.
Right. Right.
And then the next day we take off the masks and we take off the makeup and we take off the wigs and we take off the costumes, and then we sort of slide back in. But during Halloween we're accepted for whatever crazy character we've decided to take on.
Yeah. That.
And so today it came up about rejection and fear of rejection. I can't remember. I was listening to somebody talking, and they were talking about rejection. And then I was thinking how many people are afraid of rejection, and how rejection, that
Mm-hmm.
fear is to make sure that we're safe, that we're accepted by society, that we stay in our lane, that
Absolutely.
that we don't overstep our boundaries. And it's especially so in a small island like anywhere that's an island, really.
Right.
Um, um, that you know your place,
Mm-hmm.
and being different um, is not tolerated. And then I started to look at, so what is the opposite of rejection? It's acceptance.
Uh-huh.
And in order to be accepted, you really truly have to embody self acceptance. You really have to embrace self acceptance at the core level, to
Yeah.
your very core.
Definitely.
And, really and truly to hell with anybody else kind of thing, and really
Mm-hmm.
be, demanding about being accepted. And that's a huge leap, for a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah. It definitely is, and it's something that I certainly have worked with, struggled with, grown with,
Hmm.
throughout my life, because I very much um, did not really accept, kind of the who and the what that I was, and where and how I didn't fit,
Yeah.
and very tied into other people's opinion of me. And now it didn't make me fit any better, but it made it a lot more problematic to not fit.
Yeah.
And as I kind of came around and was really getting like, oh, okay, I guess I am okay, I'm okay
Hmm.
with me. And then the more unshakable my own acceptance of myself, and my appreciation, just like welcoming,
Right.
my own willingness to welcome myself
Hmm.
as I am, right? Rather than think like, oh, okay, well, you're kind of like, you gotta, it's maybe your core is okay, but the rest of it, really kind of sucks, you know. But the more that I'm okay, the less I need other people to validate who I am and that I'm okay, or that it's
Yeah.
okay for me to be here, right? And so the more you can do that for yourself, it's almost, it eventually becomes inconsequential what people think or don't think. I mean, if they're gonna fire you because of that, oh, there's a consequence, right? But um, but just in terms of the so many ways that we kind of keep ourselves small and controlled, so that we don't make a fuss or make waves. We don't do anything that would be noticeable enough, right, for people to reject us or judge or whatever. And in all of those kind of ways, we're just really cheating ourselves, potentially cheating other people, but certainly we're cheating our own lives of getting to be who we are and enjoy it, right? I mean, at least enjoy yourself. And I think that as you do that, as you find that place in yourself, um, well, for one thing, the people who really do like who you are, or would enjoy who you are, or would resonate with your vibe, if you're not really being you, how will they ever find you? How will they ever know? And that's, and I know you talk about client attraction and resonance with that. And so whether it's finding your clientele, or finding friends, or finding a partner, or finding the gym that you want to work out with because the vibe is right, or whatever, if people are not being true to their own selves, to their own nature, then how do you know who you're dealing with? How do you know who you want to get closer to, um, when you don't even want to get close to yourself, right? So um, some years ago, I think, when the whole like coaching boom was happening online, um, and some gurus were rising up in the midst. One of the sort of lines or things was about getting your potential, your tribe, your audience to know, like, and trust you, and that was the thing that you kind of needed to start with. That you needed to be, um, share and present yourself and be visible, so that people could know, like, and trust you, and then choose, to work with you. But the thing is that I was noticing, and that is still a struggle for many, is first, you have to know, like, and trust yourself. Because how are you going to put out there the picture of who you are to be known, liked, and trusted when you're not even showing up? You're showing, maybe a couple of layers of who you are. Um, it's not to say you gotta, totally bare your soul in front of
Mm.
people, in that kind of a way, but um, to do that with yourself, to be willing to say, oh, okay, this is me, whatever that is. Um, and so, yeah. And we, it's a kind of big, deep, wide, heavy topic. It can be, it can also be kind of light and playful. But, um, it takes looking at kind of from different angles and whatever. And today, still, I want to just kind of share some tools that, as we go through the ups and downs and step in the potholes of our lives, these are some tools that can help you not get bogged down in those kind of things, not get caught up in what you're picking up from other people or whatever. And so and if you want to chime in at any point, about any tools that you use, but also about, like, where you get stuck um, within yourself, then feel free to do that. And for me, sometimes it's getting into a bad mood and feel like I'm in a mood and I got in it, don't even maybe know how I got in it and how am I going to get out. Got to just, like, wait for it to wear off or something like that. And um, that could take a lot of time, or it could just, even if I think I have a good reason to be in a snit, why be in a snit if I could, shift it, right? So one of the things that I discovered took me a little while, was like listening to these various law of attraction teachers and talking about how you got to, be in the same vibration or frequency of the thing that, of what you want to be, or the thing that you want to achieve or get or whatever, and that if you're, I don't know, say you're, in a work environment, and somebody just really pisses you off, or you had a fight or whatever, that they talk about how you have to change your vibration. And I always thought, well, okay, like if something happened and I've been hurt, or, you know, insulted, rejected, like whatever it is that caused me to be in this state of mind, well, if I knew how to not be in it, I wouldn't have gotten into it in the first place. And sometimes that's true. I mean, you just have a response to a situation, or, to your own thoughts or whatever. So I kept wondering, like, how you're supposed to pull that off. And then one day I was listening, and I suddenly heard it differently. And I don't know if I'm just a late bloomer on this and you all figured that out, or if this will be news to you too. The idea that I finally understood was, I don't, in that moment, I don't have to change my vibration about that circumstance, or about the mood that I'm in, or about the issue, or whatever it is. It's not that I have to suddenly shift or switch or something on that. It's that to literally change my state of being and my vibration, which could be as simple as walking out of the room and being in a different environment. It could be um, singing. It could be, turning on a radio. It could be going for a drive. I think too often for many of us, it's, eating something is our attempt to shift the vibration, but then it usually comes with other recriminations and judgments. And, but to just very simply, I don't know, look at a magazine, or watch funny videos on YouTube or something, to actually literally shift the vibration, shift the focus, and shift the, shift the mood, shift how you're breathing or how you're sitting, by just paying attention to something else. And then if it's something that you need to, go back to and deal with, you'll be coming at it from a different space. Or maybe you don't even, revisit that day or ever, or, it depends what it is, of course, right? But if it's, just, if it's a mood that you're kind of getting sunk into, which I have been known to do really well, and get lost in for long periods of time sometimes. I mean, with depression, there were times that, it wasn't just a mood, it was a depression that lasts for weeks and weeks. Um, and not that it solves all of that, but can help lift you out and find a different perspective, to just focus on something else and try to shift. If you're not shifting the thoughts, you're not shifting maybe even the physical feelings, but you could maybe just shift your attention or your focus. And my paper is over there now, so now I'm just, it's just me and you and the thoughts. So one of the other tools is to ask yourself, this could work in similar ways, of what is true now? Just ask the question, what is true now? And this works actually especially good when you're sort of spinning out, when your mind is so busy, or your emotions are so busy, caught up in the circumstance or the moment, or your own anxiety, or worrying about something, or being angry about something. And when we're doing that, we're not really in the moment. I mean, we've kind of brought these feelings into the moment, but they stay because we're keep telling ourselves some story about it. When if you ask, what is true now? And the answer can be anything that is just sort of right now, right here in front of you. So for me, what is true now? I'm holding a spoon. We'll talk about that some other time. What is true now? I've got a microphone and my laptop on the table in front of me. The fan is going, the lights are on. And to just, I'm wearing a shirt with lizards and critters and jungle things on it. And just picking, 4 or 5 or 6 things, or awareness, objects, moments to tap in on, can help pull you back in to the moment, you know. So rather than running whatever stories or scenarios, you know, are going in your head about, you know, why you're mad or what they did or how it's just like this other time, or, you know, it's never going to be, you know, all the different things that we say to ourselves when we're kind of flying off and just in a, having a fit, a small fit, big fit, you know. Um, it's not pertinent, really. It's not what's right here in front of you. And if you come right back down to what's right here, and you may need to do this repeatedly depending on how strongly like wound up you are about whatever it is, but it just kind of keeps bringing you like, okay, here, I'm just okay right here. Right here, I'm sitting in a chair. Right here, I'm safe. Right here, there's people outside the door in the other room, you know, and to just reality, right? Just the moment of reality. So you could try that sometime when you're, you know, angry, scared, mad, flipping out, worried, telling yourself things about what is, could be true, would be true, used to be, whatever. So if you give that one a try, let me know. Um, Another one is, this is different vein, not necessarily, you know, to get you out of kind of a bad space, but I think this one is kind of fun and a way to open up and allow things other than habitual happenings or responses or assumptions to be what kind of drives your circumstances and drives your day. And this is just another question. And the question is, what else is possible? So it could be that, you know, you feel like you've got to accomplish something and you feel like you're stuck and you don't have whatever you need to accomplish it. And again, you know, kind of stop and just think, just ask the question, what else is possible? And your job actually is not to answer the question, because if you answer that question, you're answering it from your everyday mind and from your kind of limited stock of possibilities and ideas, right? So this question is actually calling in our greater self, our higher mind, our connected to all that is kind of knowing and the like field of information. And so you ask the question and allow something to arise, allow answers to come to you. And they may not be right that moment, you know, it may not be that day or whatever, and you may not even notice the answer when it comes. It could be you're driving down a street sometime afterwards and you see um, graffiti on the wall of a building, and there's something about that that suddenly clicks in for you, and there's your solution. Or there's the remind you of someone you know, and they're going to have the information that you need, or they're the person that you're supposed to call up and ask to go out to the movies. I mean, it, you know, really, it could be anything, and it could be about anything. But it's a way to get out of limitation. You don't necessarily have to be, you know, in a like in straits to feel limitation, right? Could be like, I'm happy, I'm excited, and I don't know what to do with myself. Well, what else is possible? And let something arise. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go for that piece of paper because I know there's other things that I'm not remembering them. So, right, what step am I on is another really good one, especially for those of us who have a lot of different things, kind of a lot of balls in the air at the same time, and juggling a lot of things, or creating things. Or I think, you know, a lot of the people who are in my tribe or audience are also self-employed people, and you know, have these projects that need to get done. And frequently, because we're self-employed, we are wearing all the hats of all the jobs that need to be done, and it can be pretty daunting. For example, like say you need to build a website, and you know, you're already like worrying about how you're going to set up like the shopping cart on your website. And it just is totally overwhelming and daunting, and you don't know how you're going to possibly ever even understand that. And meanwhile, though, the first step is that you haven't bought service with a web host. So where's your web page going to be? And until you have that, well, there's nowhere to put a shopping cart, for example. And just the ways that we are looking down the road into the distance and feeling overwhelmed by what we imagine we need to do, or what we're even sure that we need to do somewhere down the road from the place that we're standing. And the thing is that if you are present on the step that you are on, whatever step that is, you can handle that step. You can know what sort of assistance you need maybe for that step. And when you're, moving from that step to the next one, then you have more skills, you have more understanding. So step number 2 isn't even as confusing as it was, or step 25 is still going to be confusing and daunting, but you don't have to solve that. You can know that it's out there, right? But you don't have to already feel like a failure or underqualified or whatever, because today you don't know how to be that one or do that thing. So it's another, that's the what step am I on tool. And let's see, a couple other things for, all right. So, well, one is, again, when you're kind of, stressed out, you're worried. So worried, this is mainly a good when you're worried tool. That you're, worried about, today you don't have the money for your rent or your mortgage that's due next week, and you're, panicking or angry or stressed or frustrated or whatever. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to do this? And I'm worried. How am I going to come up with the rent or whatever? And the energy of that is, tight and twisting and contracting, and A, it doesn't feel good, and B, it's also not a very expansive, creative, receptive place for other things to happen. And so, again, just a shift by saying, instead of I worry, just changing it to I wonder. I wonder how the rent is going to get paid in a week. I wonder how I'll be able to cover the mortgage next week. And again, to not answer it with your, everyday 3D logical mind, to put it out and to allow answers to come, but also to allow yourself the relief. If you pick something that worries you, that you feel tense about, and try this out, and just, take a moment to say, I wonder, and then, sort of fill in the blank. I think chances are you will feel some relief, and some relief and like relaxation of the tension in your body. And so, again, to just allow that to be. And as we are relaxed and present, this is where inspiration can show up. This is where there's, something over there that I noticed that I didn't notice before, because I was so busy worrying and in my survival instinct, that I couldn't notice that there was, something over there on the desk that somebody said they wanted to buy from me. Or, it could be anything. But again, just being in an expansive present moment, open to possibilities, as opposed to being in the worried, knotted up and contracted kind of place. So, okay, here's another one. You probably have heard about, if not done yourself, saying affirmations, right? To feel better, or to get to some place, to some level that you are not currently at, right? Like, I am wealthy, or that a lot of those are about money, or about just even, I love, accept, and trust myself. And if you can really get behind them and really embody that and bring up those feelings in yourself, it can be a powerful thing. Most often, I feel like we wind up saying those things, and it's more wishful thinking than anything. And so it's, my brain is like, what? When I get up and say, I'm a millionaire today. No, I'm pretty sure you're not, you know. So asking different, well, okay, so rather than making a statement, and rather than when we want something to ask, like, why can't I, well, why can't I ever make enough money? Or why don't I ever get this right? Or why don't I remember what is on my piece of paper? If I ask myself, well, why can't I remember what is on this piece of paper? I mean, there's not that many things. Why can't I do that? My brain is going to want to provide me the answers to that question and say, well, maybe you're scattered. Maybe you're not paying attention. Maybe you didn't prepare yourself early enough, and blah, 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 and mostly it's some level of like criticism or judgment, or like what you should have done that you didn't do. Now, if I ask a different question, like, I wonder how I'm always clear on what it is that I want to say. Now, if I ask myself that question, I wonder how I'm always clear on what I want to say. My brain is going to want to answer that question and say, well, you're pretty sharp and you have a pretty good memory and retention of ideas, and you're able to think in a, linear kind of fashion and build on one idea on another. Those answers are totally different than the answers to why can't I remember a short list of what I want to say. And as we become accustomed to asking those sort of questions, the questions that draw from us, from our own mind, answers that are, again, expansive, that have possibility in them, have potential, and have solutions, then we start living that way too, rather than the other way of, why can't I ever, or how come it always, and, which is either usually we're kind of berating ourselves, or we're feeling like a victim, or, whatever it is, it's usually not good, whereas when you switch it around and you're like, wow, how is it that, no matter what happens, I always come out of it and feel strong at the end of it? Wow, okay, well, that's a good question. That feels good. And it kind of seeds the future, or also with the idea that whatever's going on, I'm gonna come out of it feeling strong and good. So I think I'm gonna actually leave it at that. There are a couple of other things actually on my list, but now that I have my list and I'm aware of it, I'm gonna choose to keep those for a different teaching, different time, because they're kind of a different avenue there. So I hope that you have learned something. I feel like there's some tool or trick or question in there that you will be able to apply for yourself and that you may find useful, or especially, if you're a parent and you've got young kids, some of these questions and some of these sort of turning things around can be really useful with how you question your kids and how you approach them, but also to teach them so that they can approach and deal with themselves and with others in a different kind of way. It just sets up a different, more positive outcome in general, to kind of take these different approaches to what standard operating behavior or patterns might be. I would love to hear what you think. You can comment. I guess I'm not sure exactly where this replay will be or is while you're watching it, but hopefully wherever it is, there's space for comment and questions, and you can always talk to me, message me. You could join my Facebook group, Spoonbender's Cafe, or also the Heartfelt Business Village. That is Jessa's Facebook group that I'm also one of the admins of, moderators, whatever. and I hang out there a lot. So anywhere you want to find me to ask me questions or have discussions, or I teach classes and do workshops on these things, so we can kind of go deeper and look at how are these things really showing up for you, what's really getting in your way. So there you have it. I hope it's useful. Lena says, thank you, Miche. You always trigger a thought process. Well, good. Yeah, I feel like my job is a lot more to help people wonder and discover and explore than it is about me trying to tell you what to do. I try to just say, here's some other things. What else is possible? What else is possible? Um, all right. So thank you again. And I'll be doing this again on next Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So hope you can join me. And I hope to see you around in some of the groups. All right. Have a good night.